Let me start by saying something I've never said out loud, not even to my husband. I never wanted to be someone's second choice. I never imagined pouring everything I had into a child who'd grow up and erase me like I never existed. But here I am, trying to untangle that feeling from a night I can't stop replaying. My name is Jenna Clark. I'm 41. I live in a small desert town in New Mexico, and 6 nights ago, my teenage stepson stood in front of a packed auditorium and thanked everyone who shaped him into who he is. Except me. Micah is 14. I've been in his life since he was 8, after his mother passed away in a car accident. She was beloved in this town. Prom queen, church volunteer, PTA angel. And I get it. She was his mother, but I didn't show up trying to replace her. I showed up because I loved his father, and when I married him, I chose Micah too. I've been to every parent-teacher meeting, packed every lunch, sat by every hospital bed when he got sick. I taught him how to make scrambled eggs. I was the one who took the call when he got caught skipping gym to draw in the art room. But to this town, I'm that woman. Not his stepmom, just the woman who married his dad. Last Friday was Micah's 8th grade recognition night. Kind of a big deal here. It's like graduation, award show, and local pageant all rolled into one. Families dress up. Teachers make speeches. The kids give presentations on someone who's inspired them. Micah had been working on his for weeks. I didn't ask to see it. I didn't want to pressure him. In my heart, I was just proud he was doing it. I thought maybe, just maybe, I might get a nod. The auditorium was packed. I sat next to his dad in the 3rd row, wearing the blue dress Micah once said made me look like a real grown-up. He wore the tie I helped him knot. He smiled at me before walking up. My heart thudded in my chest. He cleared his throat and said, "Tonight, I want to thank the person who's been with me through everything. The one who never gave up on me, no matter what. My dad." People clapped. I froze. He's the strongest man I know. He raised me all by himself after my mom died. And he taught me how to be kind, how to stay tough when things get hard. That's when the laugh happened. From somewhere in the audience, short, sharp, almost pitying. A kind of oh honey laugh. My ears rang. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Micah kept going, voice proud and clear. I sat there smiling like someone had stapled my mouth into place. One of the moms behind me whispered to another. Guess she thought he'd say her name. I don't even know if they meant for me to hear it. Maybe they didn't care. Micah finished his speech to thunderous applause. His dad wiped a tear. I couldn't feel my legs. No mention of the woman who taught him how to tie a tie, or stayed up all night during science fair week, or drove him to therapy after he stopped speaking for 6 months. Afterward, people came up to us, shook my husband's hand, hugged Micah, told him what a great speech it was, what a beautiful tribute to single fathers. Nobody looked at me, not even him. I told my husband I had a headache and stepped outside. Sat on the concrete curb in the dark, breathing through something I couldn't name. And that's when I saw him. My grandfather, Will, 80 years old, half blind in one eye, walking toward the building with his cane in one hand and a dusty silver tape recorder in the other. I stood up, confused. He wasn't supposed to be here. He looked me dead in the eye and said, "Sweetheart, I think it's time Micah remembers what love actually sounds like." Then he walked right past me and toward the stage. The second he walked past me, I knew something was coming. My grandfather doesn't show up uninvited. He doesn't bluff. And that recorder in his hand? That was never just a prop. It was old, real old. Probably from the 80s with a cracked rewind button and a strip of duct tape holding the battery case shut. But it still worked, and he only ever brought it out when something mattered. He walked through the auditorium doors like he owned the place. No hesitation. People turned, confused. He wasn't on the program, wasn't a parent, didn't belong in that crowd of overdressed, overly polite suburban pride. Micah was still standing near the stage, basking in praise, shaking hands like a politician. I stayed at the back, heart pounding, mouth dry. Then Grandpa Will did something that made the whole room shift. He walked straight to the microphone. No announcement, no introduction. He just gently nudged the student MC aside and leaned toward the mic like he'd done this 1,000 times. "Before we all go home tonight," he said, voice calm but clear, "I'd like you to hear something." Dead silence. He clicked the tape recorder. A faint hiss. Then, "You don't have to call me Mom if it feels weird, okay? But I'm here. I'll always be here. And you can talk to me, even if it hurts." My knees buckled. It was my voice, 6 years ago. That first night, Micah had a nightmare and cried for his real mom. I sat beside his bed for hours, just talking. He wouldn't look at me, but I kept speaking, hoping some part of him would feel safe. The tape crackled, then Micah's tiny voice came through. "Do you think, if she could see me, my real mom, do you think she'd be mad that I like you?" A woman near the front gasped. My hands trembled. The entire auditorium was still. No one knew where to look. Grandpa Will didn't stop the tape. The next clip was from a year later. Micah reading aloud a poem he wrote for school. A poem about me. About how Jenna doesn't make me feel like I'm someone else's kid. I'd forgotten that poem. Micah never turned it in. Said it was dumb. Threw it away. But I guess Grandpa Will had recorded it. I don't know how long it played. Maybe 2 minutes. Maybe 20. All I remember is the way people started looking at me differently. How their expressions cracked open, unsure now what the truth really was. When the recorder finally clicked off, Grandpa Will stepped back. He didn't say anything else. Didn't scold Micah. Didn't explain himself. He just left the machine on the podium and walked down the steps, past the rows of stunned parents, and straight toward the exit. No one stopped him. Micah didn't move. He just stood there, hands at his sides, face pale. His dad finally said too loud, "Well, that was unexpected." Yeah, unexpected. Like having 6 years of effort, sacrifice, love, and deliberate invisibility put on blast for a crowd of people who'd never once asked about me but had always assumed I was just the other woman. A woman in a red scarf leaned toward me and whispered. I had no idea. I didn't respond. What was there to say? The whole point of love, real love, is that you do it even when no one sees, even when it never gets clapped for. But hearing my own voice from all those nights I sat beside that boy while he grieved, hearing him from a time before he learned to edit me out of his story, it split me open. When the event wrapped, no one knew what to say. People offered me awkward smiles, half hugs. A few tried to apologize on Micah's behalf. He didn't come near me, not until we were in the parking lot. He walked to the car, opened the back door like nothing happened. But before getting in, he said quietly, so quietly I almost missed it, "Did you know he still had that?" I didn't answer. He sat down, pulled the door shut. We rode home in silence. At the next red light, I glanced in the rearview mirror. Micah was crying. Not loud, not messy. Just slow tears, rolling down with no effort to stop them. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel invisible. I wish I could say things got better after that night. That once Micah cried in the car, everything shifted. But that's not how this works. Grief doesn't end with a few tears. And betrayal? It lingers like the taste of blood in your mouth. Metallic. Quiet. Constant. The week after the recognition night was weird. Micah barely looked at me. His dad acted like nothing happened. Like Grandpa Will hadn't walked into that auditorium and detonated a truth bomb in front of the entire town. I went through the motions, work, laundry, meals, smile, nod, pretend. But inside, I was unraveling. And here's the part I haven't told anyone yet. 3 days after the event, I found something that gutted me more than the speech ever could. It started with a pile of mail on the kitchen counter. I was sorting bills when I noticed one of Micah's school newsletters tucked between them. I flipped it open out of habit and saw a section I hadn't noticed before. Student spotlights. There, printed in black and white, was a short interview Micah had done weeks earlier. The question, who inspires you the most? His answer, my dad. He raised me alone after my mom passed. Same lie. Same story. Consistent. But this time there was something else. An email address at the bottom. Contact us if you'd like to nominate a student or share a family story. I don't know what got into me. Maybe I wanted to fix something. Maybe I was desperate to understand. But I clicked that address. And that's when I saw it. The school's autofill popped up with recent senders. The one right above mine? Carla.hamilton@gmail.com, Micah's grandmother. His mom's mom. A woman who hasn't spoken to me directly in 3 years but sends him birthday cards like I don't exist. My hands started shaking. I opened a new tab, logged into the shared family email we used when Micah was younger, for field trips, school forms, all that admin life stuff. I typed her name into the search bar. And there it was. An email from 2 months ago. Subject line. Regarding Micah's feature. Small correction. I clicked it open. Her exact words were burned into my brain. Hi there. Just a heads up that Micah lives with his biological father. His current wife, Jenna, is not his mother and has no blood relation to him. She has only been in his life a short time and isn't involved in school matters. Please reflect that accurately if he's featured. I stopped breathing. I read it 3 times. Then again. No blood relation. Not involved. A correction. She didn't just erase me. She requested it. Everything made sense then. The newsletter, the speech, the subtle way Micah kept me at arm's length. The way teachers always emailed his dad, even when I was the one who packed the backpack. Someone had been curating his narrative for him, and he let them. I printed the email and left it on the kitchen table. No note. No confrontation. Just paper and silence. That night, Micah came home from art club, saw it, and froze. He stared at it like it was a ticking bomb. And then he said something that made me feel like I'd been punched in the throat. I didn't ask her to do that. But he didn't stop her either. He didn't correct the newsletter. He didn't stop the speech. He let everyone believe the version of the story where I was disposable. I didn't yell. I didn't cry in front of him. I just walked past him, into the bathroom, locked the door, and finally broke. The kind of crying that shakes your whole body. No sound. Just shaking. That's the part no one sees when you love someone who chooses convenience over truth. You don't get closure. You get edited out. I'm sharing this not because I want pity, but because I know there are people out there, step-parents, caretakers, adoptive moms and dads, who have loved a child only to be made invisible later. If you've ever felt like the background character in someone else's life, just know, you're not crazy, and you're not alone. Some love isn't loud. Some love never gets printed in the yearbook, but it was real. And sometimes, that's the part they'll remember when the noise finally fades. After the email, everything inside me snapped. I don't mean the dramatic kind of snap where you throw dishes or scream into the void. I mean the quiet, surgical kind. The kind where something clicks into place and you realize the only way to survive is to stop waiting for someone to rescue you. I stopped speaking to Micah for 2 days. Not out of spite, but because I knew if I opened my mouth, I'd say something I couldn't take back. And not to him exactly, but to the 14-year-old boy who used to ask me to sing when he couldn't sleep. The one who used to leave little stick figure drawings of us on the fridge. The one who, deep down, still existed. Somewhere. But I couldn't afford to grieve that boy anymore. I had to deal with the one standing in front of me now. Older, colder, and more concerned with managing optics than owning his truth. So I made a decision. Micah's high school orientation was coming up in 2 weeks. It was supposed to be at the same school his mom had gone to. The one his grandmother donated a library wing to. The one where everyone already had their narratives locked and loaded. Who he was, where he came from, and who didn't belong in that picture. And that's where I started. First, I called the district office, asked about inter-district transfer options. Found out Micah qualified for a performing arts magnet school downtown. One with smaller class sizes, no legacy politics, and zero family expectations. The kind of school where names don't open doors. Talent does. Then I did something that surprised even me. I went to his room. He was sketching, avoiding eye contact. I sat down on the edge of the bed and said, "You're switching schools." He blinked. I handed him the transfer form. Already filled out. Just needed his signature. He opened his mouth, probably to protest, but I cut him off. "You want to rewrite your story? Fine. Then go somewhere no one knows how it ends." He didn't say a word. I stood up, walked to the door, and before leaving, I added, "At least this time, you'll have to lie to strangers." I expected a door slam, yelling, something. But instead, the next morning the form was signed. Neat, careful penmanship. Just like the thank you cards I taught him to write. The week before orientation, I scheduled a parent-student meeting with the new school's guidance counselor. I introduced myself as Jenna Clark. Guardian. Not stepmom. Not second wife. Just the person who was going to make damn sure he didn't drown in his own story. The counselor nodded and said, "We don't really do labels here. If he lives with you, you're his person. That's enough." I almost cried in that chair. Micah sat beside me, silent, jaw tight. But he didn't object. Progress. Now here's where it gets wild. 2 nights before the first day at the new school, I got a voicemail from Carla, his grandmother. We hadn't spoken in over a year. Her voice was tight, clipped, furious. "I just heard about the transfer. That is not the school his mother would have wanted. You're making decisions you have no right to make." I didn't reply. Instead, I sent her a photo. It was of a handwritten note I'd found tucked inside Micah's old sketchbook that morning. One sentence. "I want to start over where no one whispers about who you aren't." His handwriting. His choice. I hadn't asked for it. Hadn't hinted. He wrote it on his own. You ever feel like your whole soul just exhaled? That's how it felt. I wasn't looking for redemption. I didn't need a public apology. But that one line, it told me he knew. Maybe not how to fix it yet, but at least what needed fixing. And then, as if the universe wasn't done shaking things loose, I got an email from his new homeroom teacher that night. Subject line, Micah's first project, unexpected but powerful. Attached was a photo of the classroom wall. Each student had decorated a paper star with something about their life. Micah's star said, "Raised by a woman who never stopped showing up, even when I made her disappear." I had to sit down. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't move. Couldn't even cry right away. Because that's the thing about invisibility. Once someone finally sees you again, it hurts more than being ignored ever did. But it's a good hurt. The kind that means something broke open. And maybe something's finally growing back. I didn't plan what happened next. Some people think closure comes with a bow on top, a grand finale where everyone says sorry and you get a slow clap on your way out the door. That's not real life. Sometimes closure comes in pieces. Quiet, sharp, and landing exactly where they need to. It started with the district's fall parent night. Micah had been at the new school for over a month. Things were better. He was quieter at home, but more present. No fake politeness, no shutting doors to keep me out. He asked me to review his portfolio for art class. Even called me my guardian when we met his advisor, which sounds clinical, but from him it was real. Voluntary. A title he chose. Then came the moment I didn't see coming. Carla, his grandmother, showed up at the parent night. She had no business being there. She wasn't listed as a contact. But she arrived anyway, hair perfectly set, clipboard in hand, like she was ready to correct whatever truth she didn't approve of. I saw her from across the room, cornering Micah's new teacher. I started walking over, slow but steady, heart pounding like a war drum. I got there just in time to hear her say, "He's very bright, but I do wish the school had consulted family before approving this transfer. His late mother would have had strong opinions about where he belonged." The teacher smiled, tight-lipped, confused. But before she could answer, Micah cut in. Loud, clear, no hesitation. "She didn't send me here. I asked to come, because I was tired of pretending someone who raised me wasn't part of my life." Carla blinked, opened her mouth, closed it, and then he did it. Micah reached into his backpack, pulled out a folder, and handed the teacher a printed statement. "This is for the student records," he said. The teacher asked, "Would you like me to read it aloud?" Micah nodded. She cleared her throat and read, "I, Micah Carson, affirm that I live with my legal guardian, Jenna Clark, and she has been my primary caregiver for over 6 years. All school-related communication should go through her moving forward. She is not my stepmother by convenience. She is my home." The room went quiet. Carla stared at the paper like it had slapped her, and for the first time in 6 years, I watched her leave. No words, no rebuttal. Just a woman realizing her version of the story had officially expired. A week later, I got a letter from the school board. Apparently, they'd done an internal audit after several complaints of family interference. Carla's email, the one where she tried to erase me, was flagged. She was removed from all student-related records. No more notes, no more edits, no more rewriting the truth. Her power? Gone. Her legacy? Tarnished. Her version of the story? Dead. And mine? Stamped. Filed. Recognized. I didn't need revenge. I just needed the room to hear the whole song, not the version she cut short. Because in the end, you can manipulate the cast, the lighting, even the script. But when the truth walks in with its own voice, the curtain always falls the same way. Lesson? Love doesn't need a bloodline to be real. And silence doesn't make you noble. It just makes it easier for other people to narrate your life for you. If you've ever been written out of someone's story, I hope you find the strength to pick up the pen again. Tell it your way. And if any part of this hit close to home, if you've ever been made to feel invisible, drop your story in the comments. I read every one. And if you want more stories that cut deep and heal messy, stick around. We're just getting started.